A virtuoso night for the record-setting Brett. 2 more playoff homers, 4 for 4. 4 runs scored, 3 RBIs to carry Kansas City to a 6-5 win. Toronto still leads the series 2-1, but George Howard Brett brought the baseball and the message to manager Dick Hauser. We're right back in it. Presents Game 4 of the 1985 American League Championship Series. Tonight from Royal Stadium, it's the Toronto Blue Jays and the Kansas City Royals. Our pregame show is brought to you by IBM and its family of personal printers for the finishing touch. And by GTE, advancing technology in telecommunications and electrical products. Early evening of a beautiful day in America's heartland. Temperature 60 degrees, not a cloud to be found this afternoon as the Kansas City Royals host the Toronto Blue Jays in Game 4 of the American League Championship Series. A crowd of 40,000 plus, a sellout at Royal Stadium. Good evening, everyone. I'm Dick Enberg. Tonight's pitching matchup, a rematch of Game 1 when Dave Steve of the Blue Jays bested left-hander Charlie Liebrandt of the Kansas City Royals. Home field advantage has been mighty important. No one at home has not lost, and that included this afternoon at Busch Stadium in St. Louis as we go to this report from Bill McAtee.
Whitey Herzog seemed to set the tone early. The fire had returned to the Cardinals. In the first, the threat of Vince Coleman's speed produced the first St. Louis run as Bob Welch throws the ball away. The Cardinals went on to get 2 in the first. In the second, again, the rabbit Coleman was the catalyst. Off first, Mike Scioscia hurries his throw and throws it away. Coleman goes to third, later to score on Willie McGee's single. 3-0 St. Louis, and there would be more. Later in the second, 2 out, the count full to Tommy Herr, who puts the Bob Welch fastball over the wall in right. 4-0 Cardinals. And there was defense to stop a potential Dodger rally in the ninth. Terry Pendleton nails the shot from Candy Maldonado. Pendleton makes the play on Maldonado at first. The Cardinals win Game 3, 4-2. But the Dodgers still lead the series, 2-1.
Some 20 years ago, Fred Haney, the former manager at Pittsburgh and Milwaukee, gave me, before my first broadcast, some sage advice. He said, young man, don't tell me what you think it'll do. Just report the ball. Report the ball. Well, if you'd done that last evening, the ball took you right to number 5, George Brett.
Leading off, the left fielder, Lonnie Smith.
Just Championship Series, the Royals host the Toronto Blue Jays, and Rick Dempsey, like a lot of kids around the country today, I wouldn't mind emulating number 5, George Brett. Is he something special?
Oh, he is. He's no surprise to me because he's done that against our ball club so many times. He comes from a rare breed like Eddie Murray, a Don Mattingly, or a Dale Murphy. Some hitters like that thrive on the moment. If they come up in a game-winning situation, you know you're in trouble.
Okay, George Brett, you're a catcher. What do you think when you hear the name?
Well, I really do. I think of the essence of hitting. Here's a hitter with a perfect swing, and you don't want this guy to beat you.
Last night, that classic swing produced a memorable evening. A perfect 4 for 4. In order, home run, double, home run, single. With the league's second-best batting average on the year and the top slugging percentage, Brett, the heart of the Royals' otherwise tame attack, got Kansas City off to a first-inning lead. After saving a run with a brilliant defensive play, Brett in his second at-bat just missed another homer when he crashed a double off the top of the right field wall, part of his 4 hits, 4 runs, and 3 RBIs. Third at bat, Toronto leading 5-3, right man, right spot, a game-tying home run to the opposite field. Oh my, in baseball language, George Brett is a gamer, a winner. And in his final at bat, leading off the 8th, a pitch out of the strike zone, but Brett golfs a single to set himself aboard eventually to score the winning run. Indeed, a great night for a great player. So George Brett is a problem for the opposition. He can beat you, Rick Dempsey. So I'm going to be George Brett, and you try to pitch to me and get me out. Now, pardon my NBC jacket.
That's all right. If you're George Brett, you can hit in a straight jacket.
Okay, let's go through those 4 at-bats last night.
Right.
The first pitch he homered on.
The first pitch was down and in. A good low ball hitter like George Brett, that's right in his power zone.
All right, and the second time up, he almost homered.
Well, it was almost in the same spot, just a little bit farther in on the inside corner. That's in his power zone, too.
But, okay, they're pitching him inside. Now they decide to go away, and he hits the ball over the left center
They finally got tired of pitching him in, figured they could get nowhere, so they decided to go on the outside corner. They didn't quite get it out as far as I thought they really wanted to. They caught more of the middle of the plate. He drove the ball to right center for a home run.
And that ball was up a little bit more. And then the last time up, looked like he almost dropped his barrel of the bat into the dirt hitting that one.
It wasn't a good pitch, I would say, for George Brett to hit. Not a pitch that he could drive out of the ballpark, but he's trying to pull the ball now. He's 3 for 3 already, and I'm sure with the game tied, he wants to try to hit the ball out of the ballpark. So he's trying to pull a low and away pitch that's probably a little bit off the plate by the time the head of the bat gets to it, and he still pulls the ball in the hole for a base hit.
Okay, Rick Dempsey, now you're behind the plate tonight, and you're handling Dave Steve. How do you pitch to me, George Brett, so I don't beat you?
Well, if I had to throw him a strike, I'd definitely stay on the outside half of the plate, right definitely on this corner. But if the game was on the line, I definitely wouldn't want to throw him a strike. I'd pitch him out here. If they had pitched him out there last night 4 times like that, they'd have won the game.
Well, that responsibility will be up to Dave Steve and his manager, Bobby Cox, and we'll get their feelings when we return to Royal Stadium.
Oh, it's a long drive and another line drive to the catcher. Just kidding.
Steve for Toronto. So you talking with manager Bobby Cox of the Blue Jays?
I asked him before the game if he was going to stay the same way with George Brett as he has been. He said yes. Basically, they're going to try to change speeds, pitch him the same exact way. But so far, he's got 7 out of 12 for hits. And I don't think he could stay the same way. But that's his decision.
Bobby Cox also talked with his team earlier today.
He had a meeting, and the subject of the meeting was kind of basic. He just wanted them to play the way that they've been playing all year long, not to reflect on Game 3 too much, not to try to do things that they're not capable of doing.
Well, Tony Kubek along with Bob Costa standing by for the play-by-play. Right now from Kansas City, Missouri, we go to NBC News. Presents Game 4 of the 1985 American League Championship Series. Tonight from Royal Stadium, it's the Toronto Blue Jays versus the Kansas City Royals. And it's brought to you by Ford and your local Ford dealer. Have you driven a Ford lately? By Miller Beer. Miller made the American way since 1855. By IBM and the growing family of IBM personal computers. And by Valvoline, because your car is special. After a rainy Friday night in Kansas City, weather is no concern for Game 4. A beautiful sunny afternoon has given way to a perfect evening for baseball, and the Game 1 starters are set to come back. Dave Steve, who was so masterful in Toronto's opening victory, is the choice for Bobby Cox. And Dick Hauser selects left-hander Charlie Liebrandt, although he was knocked out early in Game 1. Hi again, everybody. Bob Costas with Tony Kubek. Now, naturally, all of this morning's headlines belong to George Brett after that tour de force performance last night. But there were other stories as well. How about right-handed reliever Steve Farr for Kansas City? He began the year by being released at Cleveland. He was in Omaha earlier in the season, the Royals AAA farm. They brought him up in August. He came in to face Jesse Barfield in the 5th inning last night with the bases loaded and Toronto threatening to blow the game wide open. They led by 3 at that point. Farr retired Barfield, then was unhittable the rest of the way. He kept the Royals close. They mounted their comeback. Farr became the winning pitcher. There were other so-called little stories as well, Tony, and Hal McRae was right in the middle of most of them.
Well, they appear to be little during the course of the ballgame. When you recap last night's Royals victory, they were very big, creating that win for Kansas City. If George Brett is the heart of this ball club, and he proved it again last night, then the soul has to be Hal McRae. Guys like White, Brett, Quisenberry say that Hal McRae's the man who taught him how to win. In the 4th inning, after George Brett's leadoff double, McRae went to right field when behind in the count, 1 ball and 2 strikes, advancing Brett to third base for Frank White, and this RBI sacrifice fly on a great play by Jesse Barfield. Again, in the 8th, after Brett led off with a single, again, the cleanup hitter DH, they don't usually bunt very well, a perfect sacrifice getting himself up again. Now George Brett, the complete player. Instinctively, aggressively, he goes to third base on the ball hit to the left side. The question you've got to ask is this. Watch how closely Mosby gets this ball. Had Brett stayed on second base, Would he have scored the winning run?
So just when it appeared that we'd have to place the Royals on the critical list, suddenly all the vital signs are good. But they must face Dave Stieb tonight. He was simply overpowering in Game 1. He comes back on 3 days rest, something he's done only twice this year. Good move or not.
And both times out, he pitched very well. You won't know till Dave Stieb takes them on. If he's throwing a little bit sidearm, he'll throw as hard, but the slider will flatten out. The fastball will not have enough action. If he gives them 7, Tom Hankey's ready if they need him.
Something to watch early, and we'll come back with the starting lineups and get things started for Game 4. The Royals and the Blue Jays in just a minute.
Set your sights on the best in baseball. Order the 1985 World Series program. It's chock full of facts with World Series rosters and history, and more than 100 pages of articles and photographs, making the World Series program a collector's item, and it's the same one sold at the ballpark. Send $6 check or money order to World Series program, Box 80.